What up, QC crew? King Day is in the mother building. Burn it up for
Warning. Everything said in this video and on this platform is strictly my opinion and all alleged. Here, we speak about hot topics on YouTube and other social media platforms for entertainment and conversational purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised.
What it do? It's your homie King Day here in King's Corner, and I am back with another reaction video for you. Now look, y'all, I was scrolling on TikTok and I found yet another story time. Now this story time is a lot different from what we typically react to. This one is about a woman who has some issues with her landlord. Apparently they was just coming in her house whenever they wanted to, uninvited, acting a complete fool, and I don't know what else they done did wrong to this woman, but she made a story time about it and we gonna check it out, all right? Look, I ain't gonna hold you, I never do. If you with me like I with you, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share. We're gonna get straight into this video. Let's get it. Now it is time for me to do my nails, and I ain't got no snacks today, but I do got a drink. Let go.
I once had landlords that illegally broke into the apartment that I was living in, and I caught them on video doing it. Do you want to see the video? Don't worry, I'm going to show you, but we have some stuff to get through before we get to that point. This is officially part 0 of what is definitely going to be a many-part series, and you know I don't normally do parts, okay? You know I don't. I told myself when I started this account that if I ever for some reason reached 500,000 followers, I would tell this story. And that day has finally come. You know why I waited so long? Because this is epically long, and it deserves a motherfucking audience, and I know you guys will appreciate it. I just know it. Here's the deal, okay? The story that I'm going to tell you spans over 6 months, and it is essentially 3 major incidents, the last of which is them breaking into our apartment. I personally don't even think that's the worst thing they did, but we'll get there. Before I can tell you all of that, I have to give you some background lore in order for it to make sense and move quickly. So that's what this video is going to be, is background lore. I gotta find the whiteboard, hold on. Like I said, this story consists of 3 major incidents over the course of 6 months, the last of which being they broke into our apartment and I got them on video. Once we get out of part 0 and get into part 1, I'm gonna start right away with the first incident. However, for any of this to make sense, I need to start by telling you some of the stuff that happened before because it comes into play at the very end. And also I need to tell you about like other instances that weren't huge, but also definitely contributed to this whole situation. I don't know if I'll have enough time in part 0 to tell you about these. I might have to do that as we're telling the tale, but this is what this video is. Does that make sense? Let's introduce our characters, shall we? On this side, we have me and my ex-girlfriend. You can tell because I'm Kay and I'm just gonna call her my ex the whole time probably, so we're just gonna go with X. On this side, we have our landlords and they are a straight couple and we're gonna give them fake names, Grace and Steve. I don't know why I picked those, I just did. Now, here is my disclaimer, legal and otherwise. This whole series is going to be a mix of fucking facts, like screenshots, text messages, photos, videos, the whole everything, and my opinion. I will be often talking about how I felt and how I feel, especially about them. Why? Because this is my opportunity to do so, and I would like to. What I will not be doing is telling you a lot about how my ex felt, because it's none of my business to be sharing with you. There's actually a lot of stuff related to like our relationship that I'm not going to be sharing, a lot of stuff that was going on with her that is none of anyone's business. So just know that there is an extra layer on top of all of this that in my opinion makes it even more insane, but I'm going to be omitting that out of respect for everyone's privacy. But that will not take away from the story. And you'll see that. Something I do have to tell you though is that for many, many years, my ex and Grace were on and off friends for like a good portion of their life. And at the time of all of this happening, they were friends. And that might be surprising because when I say crazy landlords, you think boomer, right? Wrong. All of us are the same age, which makes this even more insane. It's like friendly fire. Like they did us so dirty in my opinion. But here's the thing, if you ask them about this whole situation, they will give you a completely different story. So I don't know. I have facts to back up mine. Personally, I think they're a little delusional, but again, this is just my opinion. Okay, let's get into it. In like, I think 2018 or 2019, the two of them buy a house. And by the two of them, I mean Grace bought a house. It was hers. They are now married, so I'm sure it's like a joint ownership thing. But at the time, like, I'm giving them little rings because they're married now. But this was Grace's house. She was technically the landlord. He was not, which is crazy because he was the one running his mouth the most. She at least had an understanding of like what not to put in writing, and he just kept talking and texting, and oh my god, we'll get there. Anyways, they buy a house. It is a 2-story home that has a basement and an in-law apartment, and that's what will be indicated by this little block. Everything I say here is very important and will come up later, just so you know. But the in-law apartment is an important aspect of this because later they tried to advertise this as a 1-bedroom apartment, and an in-law apartment and a 1-bedroom apartment are fundamentally very different as far as like how utilities are used and stuff like that. You need special permits, yada yada. At the time that they were renovating this, me and my ex were dating but living separately. I was living at home and she was living in another apartment. When they finally finished renovating the in-law apartment, they asked my ex, like, hey, do you want to move into the apartment? And she was like, hell yeah, how cool would it be to have my best friend as a neighbor? Absolutely, I will move in. So she moved in 2019. I didn't move in right away for a couple of reasons. The first was that I was living at home, so I was paying very little in rent, and this was going to be a big financial change for me, paying more in rent. The second reason, which is the major reason, is that my grandmother, who I lived very close to when I was living at home, was very sick. She had Alzheimer's and dementia, and she was like rapidly declining, and I just had this feeling that she was not long for this world, and I ended up being correct. She passed away in July of 2020, pretty tragically, actually. It was like a week long. I don't want to get into it, but it was just very traumatic for me and my family, and was not like a fast passing. So I actually didn't end up moving in until December of 2020, after I had saved a bunch of money and my grandmother wasn't a factor anymore. Now, at the time, between me and my ex, we had 4 animals. She had one very old cat and a little teeny tiny chihuahua, and I still have a cat, and I had a lizard at the time, a bearded dragon who has now passed away, R.I.P. Liz. Before I moved in, but after my ex had moved in, there was a little bit of drama happening in the household, and it was because Grace was being a bitch, I think. She knew that my ex had a dog that would occasionally bark, and she, all of a sudden, after my ex moved in, had a major issue with the fact that the dog would occasionally bark, and she would have to hear it. And the having an issue with the barking is not the issue here, in my opinion. It's how she said it. Like, she was just being a condescending bitch about it. And that's how I feel about it. And I watched my ex spend a fuck ton of time and money trying to mitigate the dog's barking. But this was like a major issue. It just kept recurring, and she seemed very stressed out about it. She was trying everything, and like nothing was working to fucking Grace's liking. So I bought something for my ex called a Furbo, which is a pet camera that launches treats. But it also has a really cool feature that when a person passes by, it'll send you a notification to your phone that says a person was detected. And if your dog barks, it sends you a notification that says your dog is barking. So you can like open the app and like look at them and see if anything's a problem. The reason I mention this is because the Furbo is what actually ended up catching them breaking into our apartment in the 3rd instance. This is what caught it. So there's like a layer of irony here that like she was such a jerk about the dog barking that we had to go out and buy a camera, and that's what caught them breaking the law. Like, hello? So funny to me personally. Anyways, so now it's 2020, fast forward, and all 4 of us sit down to have a discussion about adding me to the lease and what that would entail. And also, I feel the need to say that there was, in my opinion, immense pressure from everybody, all 3 of them, for me to move in. And I was hesitant to, for the reasons that I said before, but like there was just pressure, I feel. So like I feel confident in saying they wanted me to move in. They were excited for me to move in. They kept asking me when I was going to move in. We sit down to have this discussion about the lease, and a few things are covered. 1, rent is a fixed rate that includes utilities. So there is no separate charge for utilities. Awesome. Great, right? It makes sense because this, again, is an in-law apartment. So there's no like separate meter for electricity. There's no way to like figure out exactly what we're using. We can't put utilities in our name. It's just for the house as a whole, and they are living there too. The second thing is there was an addendum at the end of the lease specifically about cigarette smoking, which is crazy. It was just honestly a personal dig to my ex, who used to smoke cigarettes but didn't smoke cigarettes at the time of moving in. And it said specifically that she needed to dispose of the cigarette butts like properly. And this is important because later, but that was like specifically an addendum added, right? Next up, this was said out loud. This wasn't actually in the lease, but like all of us are stoners, so we all smoke the ganj. They said, we're fine with you smoking in the house, but you need to pick a room in the apartment and just keep the smoking to that room, which again, I guess makes sense, but also like the apartment is so small that one room is the whole thing. So anyways, and then the most important part in my opinion is that it was written in the lease that in order for them to enter the apartment they needed to give 24-hour notice, as is required by state motherfucking law. I'm running out of time, so like part 0 needs a second part, so
So before we get to the second part, I would just like to say it seems like the friends were obviously plotting from the beginning. It seems like the friends weren't really friends. In my opinion, it seems like the friends really had it out for the ex. Maybe they liked her. I believe her name is Kaylin, okay? Maybe they liked Kaylin, and then maybe they liked the Kaylin for, you know, her ex-girlfriend. And they didn't like their friend. They didn't like the ex-girlfriend. That's what I'm getting from it, because it's too much. It's shady business. The girl smokes cigarettes now. Now you're like, and I get it though. I get it, because cigarettes is, I rarely find myself befriending people who smoke cigarettes. Cigarettes is a smell I cannot stand. And you probably can have the purest heart and be the most genuine person in the world. But a cigarette, oh my God, it triggers something in my head. My headaches are at a 10. I can't stand the smell of it. I hate being in the store and somebody walks past me with a cigarette. I hate walking into a store and a worker is outside in the front of the door and their smoke is just like overwhelming as I'm walking through the store. And then once I pass them through that overwhelming smell, they flick their cigarette butt and they come right into the store behind me and try and ask me, do I need help? Not from you. You stink. You're giving me a headache. You're blowing my mood. So I guess I can understand in a way, you know, the ex started smoking cigarettes basically when she moved in. And maybe she was just flicking the cigarette butt. And they're like, look, no, we don't smoke cigarettes. You need to figure out a way to dispose these cigarettes properly. Don't just smoke it and fling it and it just lands in the grass. So I get it, but it seemed like they was already plotting from this jump. Let me know in the comment section what you think. I feel like they were plotting.
Hello and welcome to part 2 of part 0. We're still in background lore. We haven't even gotten to the actual story yet. So actually this is technically part 0.5. Part 1 is going to be where like the juicy shit starts and then it just gets more insane from there. Picking up where we left off, 4 of us are sitting down to discuss adding me to the lease and like what that entails. I make it very known, very clear that I own a lizard. They know about the lizard. They know me. I say, is it cool that I'm going to be bringing a whole lizard? And I say this because lizards live in tanks and tanks require heat lamps and heat lamps require electricity. And as you might remember, utilities are included. So I make sure that it's okay that I'm bringing a lizard. They say, absolutely no problem. We'd love to see your lizard. Great. Awesome. Sounds good.
Hello, this is way later editing me popping in to tell you something very important that I totally forgot. When we as a group sat down to have this conversation, I brought up something that was very important to me. And please, can I request something? If you ever have an issue with something that we are doing, can you please clearly communicate that to us and not let it like ever build into resentment? Like I would rather have difficult conversations and preserve our friendship, because sometimes when you live with someone or near, like next to someone this way, you can, like your friendship can dissolve. I was like, we can avoid that by clearly communicating to each other, like if there's ever an issue. So please, can I request that? And we will always do the same for you and we can grow as friends, really. And they totally agreed to that. They totally agreed to that. And that is so important to this story because you'll see.
Now I need to erase my drawing of the house because I need to redo it and tell you, I need to show you a layout of the home and where the home was on the street because that is imperative to the understanding of later stuff. This is a poor illustration, but I'm hoping it'll do what I need it to do. So this is a 2-story home with a basement. The pink part is the in-law apartment. Relative, that is how much space it took in the whole home. It was very, very small. Now this is the front door, but I'm going to erase it for a second and you're just gonna have to remember that there is a front door, but I need to show you the inside layout of the house. If you are inside the house and you wanted to get into our side, like into our apartment, there was a door that separated on the inside and there also was a door that led to the outside. So like we had our own separate entrance obviously, but there was a door that you could use to get in from the inside. So for example, if you were on their side of the house and you wanted to get into our apartment, you would have to leave out of there, so like 2 floors, you would have to leave out their side of the apartment through a door and then here is a hallway that leads down into the basement. So it's like you leave one door, you can choose to go right and go down the stairs, or there's another door right across that leads to our apartment and it's locked. Not deadbolt locked. It's like a flimsy door. And again, this is all important. It's a flimsy door that has just a doorknob lock. This is an illustration of the bulkhead door. Just in case you don't know what that is, I'm talking about one of these. So like the double doors that open and lead into the basement of a home. That was around the back of the house next to our entrance. And again, this is super important for later. It is totally possible if you were a creepy person walking by, seeing the bulkhead, if it were to be open, all you would have to do is enter through the bulkhead, go down the stairs into the basement, go up those stairs into that hallway, and then you have two options of doors to go in. And it's not a front door with a deadbolt lock, it's a flimsy little doorknob lock. Additionally, the washer and dryer that we all shared was in the basement, okay? Following? Okay, now we're switching to aerial view of the home. And listen, I know this seems excessive, but when we get to later parts of the story, specifically number 2, you're gonna be really glad I showed you this. So the house is on a corner. This is obviously the street. This is the front of the house, and that is the bulkhead door, the little red dot. The green is to indicate how big their backyard was relative to the size of their home and the surrounding area. Please drink that in. It becomes incredibly relevant. That is how big their backyard is. These little dots are our cars. That's where we would park. So when we would come in, we would get off the street and then come in that way and park there and then enter through the back. I'm going to be using this pink marker to show you where all of the parking lots were that surrounded the house. Okay? There was one across the street. We're gonna call this a liquor store. Even though it's not a liquor store, I'm just changing some things. It wasn't all parking lot across the street at the liquor store. It was like mostly building and then like some parking, if I remember correctly. But there was also a gas station right behind the house. So like you get out of your car, you walk to go inside and you're passing by the gas station, but there is one, where's my marker? There is one shitty fence built right here. PL is just for parking lot, just because it was another parking lot. Weird things happened in this parking lot all the time. This was how big the in-law apartment that we lived in was, like relative to the rest of the house. And this is also where it was geographically. Our apartment faced this parking lot and the liquor store and the street. We are almost done with the lore, but there's a few things I need to tell you about me personally so that you understand where I was coming from in this whole thing. First thing I want you to know is that at the time of all of this, I was very mentally and physically unwell. I had literally just been diagnosed with ADHD like months before I moved in, so I was still trying to navigate that diagnosis. Also, I know now, but didn't know then, that I have always had something called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and POTS, which means I am chronically ill, and I was chronically ill then. I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me during this time. I just knew something wasn't right, and I was the amount of effort that I had to put in to appear normal nearly killed me, is what I'm trying to say. I also was working at the furniture store at the time of all of this. So as you guys know, that was the worst fucking job I've ever had. The reason it was bad is because I was being abused at my job every day by my boss and by this one fucking bitch that I worked with that was, people overuse the word narcissist. She was like clinically diagnosable narcissist. We are finally done with the background lore.
Hello, it's me again.
We are now finally about to get into the story time. So her caption says, buckle up. She says she has 11 parts to this. I'm not sure if the 0 parts count or not. Obviously 0 is 0 and not 1, so maybe not. It looks like this is going to be a 2-part reaction on my end, so y'all be patient. Let's get it. Let go.
Welcome to part 3 of part 0, the background lore, before we get into the good shit in part 1. This is the one where I tell you everything I think that I did wrong during this whole scenario. Obviously, I was not 100% without fault in this situation, so I'm going to tell you where I fucked up. I'm also going to preemptively address some of the things that they later said about me so that when we get to that point in the story, you are just as angry as I am knowing the truth. Basically, I'm addressing like the issues they had with me, and I'm kind of exposing myself because I'm going to tell you things about myself that are not cute. The first thing is Marigange. You know what I'm saying? I said in one of the last parts, they told us that we could smoke in the house, but we had to choose one room of the apartment and limit our smoking to that room. We did that. We picked the living room, but again, it was so small in there that like one room was all room. And we were like pretty heavy with the ganj, but like they said we could do it inside was the thought process. But then the world shut down in 2020 and the intake of that substance increased dramatically. We weren't smoking like bowls, we were smoking blunts. So it was just like a little extra stinky. And listen, they were also stoners, so like I genuinely didn't think they would mind. That's not something that personally bothers me, so it's not something I would immediately think would bother other people who also do that. Now I realize it is best to go outside for those specifically, especially actually. I will admit that that was definitely like excessive. Like there was an excessive amount of that going on. However, they never said anything about it ever until like the end when everything was blowing up. Like maybe it wasn't exactly the end, but they let it fester for a while and then like blew up. I actually don't know if it was to me, my text messages, because I tried to look for it and I couldn't find it, but I know that it was like brought up as an issue later down the line as a response to us raising an issue. While I am obviously irritated that they like didn't bring it up as an issue like earlier on so that we could have just stopped and gone outside and it would not have been an issue, also recognize that yes, that is super annoying. I would have fixed that, but their reasoning was like, you should have known, which is kind of the pattern. Second thing I did wrong is, okay, something you need to know about me. I am a very messy person. Don't get me wrong, I like to be in a decluttered and organized space, and I am really good at making that happen. But to be completely honest with you, about 70% of the time, everything is in disarray around me. There's a difference between messy and dirty, and I am messy, but I'm not dirty. Unless I am in like a deep depression. Unless something is actually terribly wrong, I am not like an unclean person. When we lived there, there was so much crap everywhere that it was like messy as fuck. There was no possible way for me and my ex to fit all of our stuff in there. So you know how I told you that like before I moved in, there was that issue about the dog barking? One of the things that was tried was for, what was her name? For Grace to come over like through the door that separates us in the household and come check on the dog and like give him a couple treats and like scritch him and maybe take him out. I can't remember, but that was like something they tried to maybe like keep the barking to a minimum. So when Grace would come over to check on the dog, she would look at the mess and there are videos of her taking pictures of our shit and actual shit, because my ex would have to corral the pup in the kitchen where the linoleum is so that like put down a pee pad, and he had really great aim. Sometimes he would miss, and that way it would get on the linoleum, which is easily cleaned, instead of being in the carpeted room. And literally one time he took a shit like off the pee pad, and she came in and took a photo of it, and she thought she was off camera. She thought she was off camera, but it caught her. Yeah, I know she was collecting her own evidence of like how we were living, which was again messy but not dirty, and nothing was destroyed. The accusation that Grace and Steve fling at us at the very end is that we absolutely destroyed the apartment, which you will see based on the photos I show you, that's not true. That is a lie. Keep in mind, though, that them saying we destroyed the apartment was literally the response to us saying, hey, why'd you break in? So, and again, we will get there. It was fucking spotless. I will show you later. Third thing I did wrong was sugarcoat my confrontations to the point of them being so much less effective. And I would raise an issue to them that was major, as you'll see. I did a lot of, hi, sorry to bother you. I hope this isn't like super inconvenient to ask you to do this, but can you blah, 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 blah. Don't do that shit. If you do that shit, stop doing that shit. Just wanted to say this now before we get to those videos and you read what I said and you're like, oh my God, Kaylin, like what is wrong with you? It was way too over-explainy and walk on eggshells-y. And there was a factor in this, obviously, that like this was my ex's best friend and her boyfriend. I didn't want to accidentally damage that relationship by presenting a need. in a way that is like true to me. When we look at those text messages, what you're gonna see is me doing that and then them taking advantage of that and doing like fake nicey back to me. I was truly being earnest and trying to see things from their perspective and why they wouldn't want to do things that, like, you know, they're legally obligated to do. I was truly trying to be like understanding while raising those issues like we agreed to at the beginning. I got to the end of that friendship, or so I thought, and found out that they hated talking to me the whole time. And that sucks to find out, like, at the end. If I knew that you hated everything I was saying, I would have shut up. Now I look back though and I'm like, oh, I was obviously like anxiously talking because I could tell that they hated me, like, subconsciously. And so I was just like word vomiting, which, like, I guess can be annoying, but also, like, you're my friend, so just like tell me to shut up. You know, I don't know. Honestly, they talk very HR in their friendships anyway, so have fun chatting about what you want to chat about. I want to talk about space and weird stuff. They said I had negative energy. I'm taking it personally now because I know they were just flinging insults at the wall trying to distract from their illegal activities. So, all right, we are done with the background lore. I'll see you in part 1.
Y'all, I ain't gonna cap. I chopped and screwed some of that last part up because she started to kind of ramble a little bit. And so I didn't want you guys to have to sit through that if it wasn't necessary information. So we're finally here at part 1. And y'all heard what I said at the beginning. You know, I thought that maybe the friends really liked Kaylin because in her opinion, as she stated, they were damn near begging her to move into the house. But as she finds out, they never really liked her. So let's see what this story does. Let's see how it all unfolds. Let's get it.
Lords. If you're just getting here, there's actually already 3 parts. They're all part 0. All the background lore is already there. Like I mentioned in one or all of those videos, this is a story that takes place over the course of 6-ish months and includes 3 major incidents. Now that I've gotten through all of the background lore, we're going to start with incident number 1. Incident number 3 is when they broke in, but we'll get there eventually. Before you ask why am I doing all this, I want you to have the full effect, okay? I want you to live it almost like I lived it. I want you to have every fucking detail because they gaslit the shit out of us, and I want you to have the full effect, okay? I want you to know. Incident number 1 took place on March 6th, 2021. As you can see, it was fucking cold. Right around freezing temperatures during the day, getting cold at night. Our apartment got so fucking cold during the winter. Grace and Steve, the fake names I'm giving these landlords, had control over the thermostat of the household. The whole thing, including our apartment. And that wouldn't have been a huge issue if our floors had been fucking insulated. I don't mean like everybody's floor, just our apartment's floor was not insulated. Their side was, ours was not. What does this mean? All of the frigid air in the basement is coming up through the floor and making us cold. And by cold, I'm not exaggerating. We had a space heater running literally 24/7 and could only get it up to like 62 degrees. At winter's coldest, we could only get it up to 54 degrees with space heaters running. I had to buy another heat lamp to keep my lizard warm so that she wouldn't die at night. And again, this is due to the floors not being insulated. The draft is crazy. If you put your hands over the cracks in the wall, you can feel the airflow. Anyways, on March 6, 2021, I was sleeping soundly long into the afternoon. I woke up at like 2 p.m. to the smell of paint thinner. Distinctly, it is paint, and it is so strong that I can taste it. So I get out of bed and I go up to my ex and I'm like, what the fuck is that smell? She's like, I have no idea, but it seems to be emanating from everywhere. I'm worried there is a leak of some sort, so I text the group chat. I went into my phone and like changed everybody's contact information to their fake names so that I don't have to like adjust every fucking screenshot. And my ex-girlfriend literally just is X, so just so you know. I text the group chat and I say, all I can smell is paint/paint thinner. Please tell me that's you guys and nothing is about to blow up. Steve says, bahaha, we are restraining a table, restaining. The table is a willing participant, I swear. Take a second to remember, okay? I told you what the weather was. They are restaining a table. And in case it wasn't clear, they're doing this in the basement, right below our apartment. I say, LMAO, laughing, crying face. This is a serious question. If I light a candle, will this place explode? Deadass, I may have to open a window. It's really strong. Steve says, I might refrain from the candle. Didn't even think about that. We've got all the windows open down here, so should dissipate shortly. I don't know why that photo's not showing up on my phone, but I have it on my laptop. He sends photos of them staining the table and the stained table. Something about me is that strong smells sometimes make me throw up. Like some candle scents make me nauseous. But this was objectively insane. This was not just my nose. This was so bad. So I say we're probably gonna have to leave for an hour or so, but I'm gonna crack the windows while we're gone and shut the heaters off because it's overwhelming. It looks amazing. Why am I complimenting their table? Steve then sends another photo, and I'm going to show you it. Again, it's not showing up on my phone, but it's on my laptop. He sends a picture of the chairs. Thank you so much. He says, this is probably why And then he makes a joke. We trying to smoke y'all out, so we'll have to smoke y'all up tonight to apologize. I'm thinking, you clearly don't understand the severity of the issue. This is not just something stinky. This is toxic, noxious fumes. Hello? And all of the air in that fucking basement is funneling into our apartment. But here I am being a stupid bitch trying to people please. LMAO, that explains it. Those look amazing. But for real, the airflow from basement to here must be at least 90%, because when I say it's overwhelming, I mean it smells like those are in the middle of our living room. Grace pops in to say, oh no, I'm so sorry guys. We had no idea it was going to be so strong. You didn't once think that this would maybe be a bad idea? That thought just slipped your mind? I say, that's okay. It wasn't. We're gonna leave for an hour or two to give it a chance to air out before we come back to do homework and stuff. If it's still pungent and you need a hand moving them outside or something, we are down. I happen to be a pro at moving tables because I worked at the furniture store. This was me trying a subtle get it out of the house because I couldn't believe that they weren't already suggesting that they were gonna do that. Grace says, hopefully it won't be as bad once they dry. We were all up in that for like 4 hours, so we must have gotten a little nose blind. It needs a second coat, but we'll do that outside tomorrow. We will do that outside tomorrow, she says. I do the annoying thing where I over-explain instead of just being like, yo, what the fuck? And I say, OMG, no worries. Hopefully I don't sound like a total asshole, LMAO. It's so embarrassing. Smells don't bother me generally, but I have an almost comically violent reaction to chemical smells. One time, my ex had a Glade air freshener in her car and it made me sick for an entire day. That is true. I promise I'm not exaggerating when I say it was eye-wateringly strong. But regardless, that table is gonna look fucking dope. That finishes. Like, my mistake was in doing this because I framed it as like a me issue instead of a major issue. But whatever, Steve pops in and says, oh my god, nah, it's like right under your spot. Really sorry about that. And then they left it in the basement to dry overnight. We literally opened all the windows, wrapped a blanket around our cats, shut off all the heaters and put on fans trying to just like get the smell out. When we got back, not only was the smell still awful, but now it was so cold and like just so hard to keep it warm in there. Like, we lost all our heat. The smell continued into the next day when they applied a second coat. So this time my ex sends a text message and says, hey guys, I'm sorry to be a pain. I'm not sure if you guys still have that stuff curing in the basement still, but it's pretty stinky over here to the point of being overwhelming, sad face. Normally I'd say we could just air things out, but if I open up windows now and leave them open, the heaters / temp it is in here now won't be able to keep up, and I'm not sure what to do. I know fumes like that can be noxious in large amounts and last days, so I'm just a little concerned to be breathing it in, and also for the animals. I know your side has way more insulation, so I imagine it's not nearly as bad over there, but is there any way that they can cure outside? Which I don't know why that wasn't already done. Take that shit out of the house. Ready? Then Steve says, I'll see what I can do. Outside overnight might ruin them, but I'm going to arrange some stuff now and see what I can do. Hey Steve, fuck your table. If it gets ruined outside, it's your fault for staining an entire dining set indoors. In winter. Freezing temperatures, Steve. If your table gets destroyed, that sucks. But unfortunately, I do pay to live here, and I can't inhabit my space when it smells of noxious paint fumes. Don't worry, this whole thing gets worse. I start to put my business pants on, and I say, so to be very clear, this is me with my tenant hat on, not my friend hat, because I love you both so much, and I love your table. And I feel bad for even having to say this, but when we say it's overwhelming, it's like a punch in the face. It's bad enough where we may have to take the animals and go stay somewhere else. It's making us sick. Typically, stain or paint is supposed to dry outside because the worst of the toxic fumes happen when it's drying, and that usually takes a few days. I would just open the windows and crank the heat, but it's 62 degrees in here right now, even with the space heater running most of the day. This is when Steve starts to get his knickers in a twist. Doing my best and clearly didn't know this was going to be the case. Don't really know what to say. Standing literally next to the tables and chilling around them, and can't say it's as bad as it sounds, but I'm not in your apartment. And I've been in it for hours and can't tell at this point, I'm sure. Everything's contained now, and you should see a difference shortly. Grace pops in and says, I'm really sorry about the inconvenience, guys. We followed the directions on the container. The windows are all open. The 2 basement windows, please. Windows are all open and everything is under our side right now with fans blowing and the curtains to under your side closed. I don't know how your apartment is, but the basement isn't too bad, so I'm sure the air is helping. I appreciate your concern about the heat, but I think maybe if you open the windows for just a few minutes, what's in there will get out and you shouldn't have any more seeping in after that. We wouldn't put you guys or ourselves or the animals at risk ever, of course, except for when you just did. And the container says to have airflow, which we do. And okay, so, oh my god, the container would probably tell you not to do this indoors in the wintertime if it could talk to you. The container can't tell you not to blow all of the air up into the uninsulated floor. The apartment. We didn't really know it would be so stinky, but if we put it outside, it'll be cold and damp and not cure properly. Oh no, not that. You mean the consequences of your own actions? Give me a fucking break. I'm sitting here like, how are they not understanding what we're saying? So what this means is they genuinely think I'm being dramatic. They don't believe my ex, who is also saying that it's bad. They think that my ex is only texting them to back me up. But at this point, I'm just truly perplexed. I'm like, they must not, I need to explain harder. They don't understand. So I say, I hope you guys know we wouldn't be saying anything if it wasn't serious. I feel like me talking about the Glade incident may have made it seem like it was just me being sensitive, and I hate that it may come across as overreacting, because I promise we are not, and this is not a fun conversation to have. Please believe me. I know it's on, I meant under. I know it's under your side, but it's still finding its way up here and smells like having the table drying in the middle of the living room. Not as intense as the stain being applied, but still constant release of the smell and toxic compounds, which is not safe. It's coming up through the floor. Imagine if you guys couldn't go upstairs and had to live next to it drying and eat next to it and sleep next to it. I know the wood may not cure as fast, meaning outside, but as friend hat Kaylin, I really hope you can understand how we are more worried about the reality of having to breathe it in for days. We are airing out as best we can, but we have to be strategic because it's hard to get the temperature back up. It's just really important to me that you know this isn't us trying to be frustrating or make a big deal out of nothing. I'm running out of time. I'll see you in the next part.
So, before we get to the next part, I think when she gave that example about the car freshener or whatever, it lightened the severity of... Let's come closer. It lightened the severity of the situation. Again, Kaylin tries to say things in a way that is not problematic. She tries to over-explain things. She isn't really straightforward. And sometimes it puts her in a bad situation, in a bad place. And I just feel like, and y'all let me know if y'all feel the same or different. I like to talk, not tussle. Leave your comments down below. I just feel like for these people to actually be your friends, it's not like Kaylin and her ex said, hey, here's a nice place to stay. Let's move here. And then you realize that the landlords are your same age. And then you guys become friends. You guys were already friends, or at least the ex and the landlords were already friends. So I just feel like these people just sketchy anyway. You're sitting here doing something with a table in a basement, and I'm pretty sure those windows are little as hell. That you're saying you got all the windows open and everything else. And I don't know if this was their first way of saying, hey, get out, or we don't want you here, or we don't like you. I'm not sure. But if someone's telling you that, hey, the fumes are fuming, you would think that you would put, I don't give a damn if it's the landlord cap or the friend cap on, to say, okay, let's figure out how we can air this out. Let's figure out how we can make this environment not so toxic. And I'm literally talking about the quality of air right now. Like, not make it so freaking toxic. But instead, they didn't care. They didn't want to put it outside. They didn't want it wet or whatever. They should have been doing this in another season at another time. But they want to get it done right now. And I don't like that I'm hearing smelly. It's smelly. It's stinky. It's smelly. It's stinky. That's totally different. Okay? Because trash can be smelly and stinky. Or animals can be smelly and stinky. Or even some people who use a whole lot of bleach when they're cleaning up. It could be smelly, but it's also toxic. Too toxic for you to be inhaling. So I think the friends are just kind of like, oh, y'all making a big deal out of nothing. Y'all pretty much just saying it stinks, it stinks, it stinks. And it probably does stink. But aside from it stinking, it's damaging. It's damaging to the humans and the pets. So this was red flag 1. Apparently she didn't learn her lesson because she didn't leave. But if I had friends that were that inconsiderate, I would be trying to figure out my way out. I know it's not a hop, skip, and a jump to move. I know it's not easy to move. And she said she got a lot of stuff going on in her life. But I would have been trying to come up with a plan at that point.
Part 2 of the landlord story. I'm going to pick up right where we left off. Steve texts back and says, yeah, I totally get it. Trying to figure out a solution. I'm underneath your apartment and don't smell anything. I'm guessing the first blast is just lingering. So if you want to open the windows for a minute, we will turn up the heat in a minute so it can blast your side with some warmth. Everything's already dry. I'm sitting on a chair now, chilling, smoking a bowl. And all the windows are open with fans blowing every which way, so ventilation isn't an issue. Nothing's beneath you seeping through the floor though, so you should be good. I'm chilling right next to it, so it seems the issue is from what was before and not what's going to continue. I've got it down to a science down here. I'm hoping it's making a difference for y'all up there. I'm about to turn on the heat and let that do its thing. I just conquered this whole basement for real. If you want to come down and check it out and smoke a bowl, let me know. Yes, I'd love to get closer to it right now. Thank you so much for the suggestion. Sucks it ended up putting y'all in a rough spot, and I'm sorry for not thinking of that in advance. Definitely won't happen again. If you see the setup I have, you won't worry either, so let me know how else I can help. I gave up, like a little bitch. Next day, I send this, and again, here we go. I know, I'm just like doing a lot. Said, so sorry for the late response on this. It's so much better today, thank you so much. And it was, because they finally turned up the fucking heat, and for the first time, it was warm, and all the air was different. Whatever you did worked really well, so thank you a bunch. I know that it probably came off like we were overreacting yesterday, but I really hope y'all know that we wouldn't have even brought it up unless it was serious. I know I probably sounded like a dick, so I'm sorry about that. We were just scared and overwhelmed and didn't think you guys believed us. Kicking the heat up so we could air it out did wonders. I really appreciate the help. I shouldn't have been apologizing. I did nothing wrong. Steve seems to have a moment of like brief clarity in this next set of messages, but then that goes away. OMG, I'm glad you said something and really sorry to put you in a spot where you had to say something. Certainly won't happen again. Would rather air it out and tick up the heat than wait in limbo, so just wanted to be sure y'all were comfortable in your own place of living. Now that it's aired out and everything, let me know if you want me to close the window / bulkhead underneath you guys if it's too cold or whatever. Can't wait for spring. I'm like dying just to leave windows open all the time. Then Grace pops in, and the text message I am about to read to you is so fucking passive aggressive and condescending. Grace says, yeah, we're really sorry that you guys even had to be in that position, but we had no idea it would be so smelly, and we were limited on what we could do once the smell was already there. We really couldn't put everything outside overnight or it would have gotten tacky and we would have just had to redo it and be in the same position. Oh no, not redoing it at a better time. Under better circumstances? What? Oh no. Obviously we have learned our lesson and I'm glad it's better today. Please know that we wouldn't ever do anything dumb enough to put any of us or the animals at risk, but I totally get that some smells are just absolutely sickening, whether they're actually dangerous or not. And I'm so sorry you felt stuck between being smelly and being cold and just feeling completely overwhelmed and worried. Steve worked really hard creating maximum airflow down there, and I'm so glad it worked. You gaslighting bitch. I wish you guys could have been there to smell it. It was not a me problem. It was so fucking bad, dude. For you to sit there and, oh my god. For you to sit there and hit me with the, I'm sorry you felt that way? For you to say, what else were we supposed to do? We could have ruined the table. You could have killed my animals. Of course your animals aren't going to be at risk. You have insulation. We do not. God, it makes me so, I get so fucking heated when I talk about this. It's ridiculous. I can't wait to never ever have to talk about this again once I put these videos out. This has been living in my brain. After this, it'll be done. Anyways, I didn't fucking answer that because it was ridiculous. And as they say, if you can't say anything nice, then shut the fuck up. We didn't talk for like a month. Like my next text message was on April 1st saying, there's a package for you. Anyways, so this is incident 1. So why don't we go ahead and cross it off of the list. Like I told you in one of the background lore videos, there's also in-between stories. So like not the big ones, but there's like things in between that are infuriating and important. I'm gonna jump right into the first one of those. Can't remember exactly when it happened, but at some point during the winter, Grace texts my ex and says, hey, I know we said that we wouldn't charge you for utilities, but like I know Kaylin brought her lizard and like the electric bill has gone up like a lot. So we were wondering if you could give us like $100 extra every month to kind of offset the utilities that you're using just so much of. And because me and my ex were the people we were, we paid it. But here's the thing, that's not why the electric bill was high. The electric bill was fucking high because we had a fucking space heater running 24/7 trying to keep it like 62 degrees. And again, the coldest it ever got with a space heater running was 54 degrees. This is off the .gov website for our state. Heat. The landlord must provide a heating system in good working order. The landlord must pay for the heat unless your lease requires you to pay for it. Ours did not. From September 16th to June 14th, every room must be heated to at least 68 degrees Fahrenheit between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. and at least 64 degrees at all other hours. So why are you making me pay $100 extra per month on utilities that I'm not even supposed to be paying for, that are only so high because I'm trying to heat the apartment to the degree that you are legally supposed to do it? And through our best efforts, not even achieving. I would have loved to have 68 degrees in there. I would have loved to have 64 degrees in there. I would have settled for 60 consistently. And here's another thing. Speaking of things that were never hot the water. The whole fucking place shared one water heater. Landlords must still provide the facilities for heating water to a temperature between 110 and 130 degrees Fahrenheit and must pay for this fuel unless the written tenancy agreement states that the tenant must pay for it. Ours did not. I used to cry in the shower because I would be in the middle of washing my hair and it would go ice cold all the time. I also would cry every time I got a hot shower there because it was so infrequently. And I don't know why that was, but I'm not exaggerating. It was all the time. And here's another thing. Around this time is when we started having the rat problem. They called them rats, but I'm pretty sure they were actually just mice. I could be wrong. I think they were mice. Sometimes you'd see them outside, but most notably one of them started chewing a hole through the closet floor. Here's a photo of that. Their plan was to smoke them out. This, what I'm about to tell you, this is like the most important thing out of all of the things that I've told you. And the others are pretty important. You know how I told you about the layout in one of the part 0? Well, the reason I told you about all these weird parking lots is because weird things were always going on. But most importantly, people would come from the gas station and they would cut across the fence and go through the backyard of our home past the bulkhead to cut through and go back onto the road or go like into this parking lot or on the road this way. And we knew about this because we would find footsteps in the snow. It was happening all the time. People were using like our backyard as a shortcut. This is already annoying, but it's especially terrifying when you consider the fact that they loved to keep the bulkhead open at nighttime. And again, what did I tell you about the layout of the house? If you were a creepy person and you wanted to, all you would have to do is go in through the bulkhead, down the stairs into the basement, up the stairs into the hallway, and then pick a door to kick in. And you're in. There were just always people making that trek past the open bulkhead. And this terrified me. And I know I'm not paranoid because paranoia would be like unreasonable. This is completely reasonable. Not to mention a bunch of my belongings are in that basement. And so like as soon as spring hit, they started keeping those bulkhead doors open and I did not like it. We brought up the danger of potentially doing that and they just didn't care. Again, we're just overreacting, making an issue out of nothing. I don't know. I feel like if I was a person insane enough to already cut through someone's closed backyard, I maybe might see the open bulkhead as an invitation to go in. I might continue my disrespect of your property and see what's in there for myself. One day in May, I have to text the group chat at 4 in the morning. I say, "Hi, I'm so sorry to text at 4 a.m., but we are awake and just heard the bulkhead slam shut and someone moving around outside. And I want to make sure it's someone who is supposed to be here." I said that because there was not supposed to be anyone there at 4 in the morning. It was genuinely terrifying, by the way. I don't know if it was a person or an animal or what, and I am not trying to be alarmist, but... Steve says, "Thank you for the heads up, for real. I just did a lap and everything's still locked down and not missing anything. Maybe it was the woodchuck." Which, by the way, don't even get me started on the woodchuck. Super, super quick cliff notes. Once upon a time, a woodchuck lived in the backyard and it had to have been there for years and years and years. Steve used to feed it and Grace fucking hated that because, I don't know, her soul is gone. That was a little harsh, but I don't know. I kind of mean it. I'm sure she has a soul. But they tore up his home and evicted him, and he had nowhere to live anymore, and we are obviously surrounded by parking lots. And a couple of weeks later, oh my god, I might cry. The woodchuck was spotted at a gas station like 3 blocks away. Like it hadn't found a new home yet. It was just like wandering. Oh my god. I hate thinking about that. Anyways, I thank him for checking it out. And then later that day, there were 4 cruisers searching the parking lot. Hold on. Cops were searching this parking lot. So like we could watch from our window and see there were 4 cruisers there and they were searching with flashlights. Anyways, we are now done with the in-between incidents. Now it is time to go into incident number 2, which is, in my opinion, the worst thing they did and the thing I get the most heated talking about. So I will see you in the next part for incident number 2. Part 3 of the landlord story. We are now on major incident 2 out of 3, and this is actually my least favorite of all of them. Almost a tie between 2 and 3, but this one takes the cake for me, I think. And by that I mean I get the most angry talking about this part. So fast forward, it is now June. Over the past few months, through everything that I've been talking about in all the other videos, my ex and I decide to start looking for a new place to live. We look for like a straight month, but can't find anything that's within our budget and also allows pets. Just when we're at the point of losing hope, something magical happens. The house that I grew up in is up for rent. The property is owned by my family, but another family has been living in that house for quite a while. Never really thought they would leave. Miraculously, they are leaving the exact time we're looking to get out of our apartment. There were a few other factors that needed to be like squared away before we knew if it was something we were actually going to do, but we were pretty sure. So my ex sits down with Grace one day. I'm pretty sure they were down in the basement smoking a bowl, and my ex mentions to Grace like, "Hey, I think we're going to be moving," like says everything I just said. On June 22nd, my ex sends this to the group chat. Hello, I hope you're having a good Tuesday. I wanted to give you guys an update about the house that will be opening up on the property Kaylin's family owns. We talked with them and it's a really great offer, especially with how crazy markets and renting prices are. So we're gonna go for it. It'll be ready on August 1st, but I'd really like to set up a day/night where we can all chill so we can chat, and also so that we can thank you guys for everything, because you've really been so amazing and just texting about it feels weird, lol. Would that be okay? I think it'll be a really great space, but I'm also gonna be sad about neighbor BFFs because it's been so fun, even if we are all always busy. Grace responds like, oh my god, that's so exciting. Like, when do you guys want to chat? And then we start to make some plans about when we're gonna chat. I write back and say this: hi, sorry guys, work is a nightmare, I'm on my lunch. I'm so sad but also excited, but mostly sad, and we have to promise to still hang out because I will literally die if we don't. You guys are so special and the best fucking landlords, and so thoughtful and kind, and my heart. Now, I feel the need to address this because why was I being so nice? It sucks because like I look back on this and I remember writing this and being so conflicted. Because on one hand, they have been kind to us. They have done like nice little things over the years. But in my opinion, all of the shit that I'm telling you in this series, I feel like negates all of those nice things. At the same time, this is also my ex's best friend, so I'm trying to like I'm trying not to cause any problems, and also like I was very confused. I thought that A, we had a friendship, and B, that it was salvageable. You'll see soon. It was not. A few days later, we all end up sitting down to have a discussion. In this conversation, we tell them the house is going to be available August 1st. August 1st is a Sunday. I tell them I'm taking PTO the 30th through the 6th, so we will be moving in this weekend, the 31st and the 1st. Say our plan is to move in the 1st and then spend that week like unpacking and moving in. They say to us, hey, you don't actually have to be completely out by August 1st. Like, you can take some time. You don't need to rush. They suggest, do you want to take the entire month of August, pay rent for an entire another month, and then spend that time like moving your stuff out slowly instead of all at once? I don't want to do that. I'm very adamantly against that. I go, no, I honestly would prefer to be like fully moved in by the time I'm back at work. My ex does not feel the same way. She's more like, oh, you know, maybe we should take the month. I push back a little bit and then eventually cave. In that discussion, we decide that not only are we going to be paying rent at the apartment for the entire month of August, but we're also going to be paying that at our new house that we are renting. Secretly in my head though, I'm thinking, bitch, I'm gonna be out of here by the 6th. Like, no fucking way am I staying the whole month going back and forth. No way. Especially because new place is like 40 minutes away from old place. After that meeting, Grace sends us a text that says, hello, here's a follow-up video that I made about our conversation. The video was basically her just like breaking down rent minus security deposit, because they said like when we were meeting with them that obviously they were going to give us our security deposit back. So like rent for the month of August minus that amount. But she also says, hello, here's a follow-up video that I made to our conversation. Please let me know your thoughts and if you want to talk more about it. I know you guys seem to decide to take the whole month, but wondering if 3 weeks would work best for everyone and save you a little more money. Let me know. X basically writes back and says like, yep, that should work. So now the new plan is that we need to be fully out by, I think it was the 21st. My ex and I kind of make a plan. We're going to have our big move that first weekend, so August 1st. Move most of our shit, continue sleeping at the apartment, go back during the day to unpack a bunch of stuff, and then once everything is a little more settled, bring the animals. Because nothing is worse than trying to move all of your belongings and your creatures on the same day. So stressful. But we only have 1 day with the box truck, so we got to do the most of what we can with that. And then the rest of that month we're going to be using to bring the rest of our stuff over in like small car trips, and also deep clean the apartment so that it's ready for the next people. Also, this becomes super relevant later. I just noticed this. My ex also asks where the poop scoop is, because again, she has a dog and that dog shits outside. So she's like, hey, I like was going to go pick up some poop, but I can't find the poop scoop. Do you know where it is? And then they tell her where it is, whatever. This is where I start to get very angry. I'm really sorry in advance. Approximately 2 weeks after having that conversation, my ex receives a Facebook invite from Steve for an event called Banger that starts July 31st at 2 p.m. and goes until August 1st at 6 a.m. This is a picture of the basement. Something I forgot to mention is that Steve makes music and he's pretty good. But once again, I would just like to draw your attention to the time that this is taking place. This is not even the worst part. Oh my god. This is the description for Banger. It starts off with, I think it's cut off, but it says, no neighbors, no problems. Pool table, darts, live music, and more. House to ourselves. So indoor/outdoor will be open. Couple of bartenders here, so plenty of drink options too. There's a blank business next door too. Not sure how many people to expect, so I'm blasting this to get a feel. Address and more details will be provided closer to the day of. Friends with kids and families are invited and welcome in the early afternoon. Few house rules. Please help keep the dog on the property. Please don't let the cats outside. Please don't break anything. Any performers who want to play, just hit me up in advance so we can coordinate. All musical talent welcome. Old friends, new friends, friends of friends, all are welcome. Just help me keep track of head count in this thread so I can plan accordingly. Block party possibility with the location. And then guess what? 493 people invited. Sorry, I'm just gonna say that again. Invited 493 people. The day our house becomes available, the day of our move, is the ass end of a block party that you started planning 2 weeks after knowing exactly when we were going to be moving out. This is all sent to me in screenshots from my ex because I didn't have a Facebook at the time. This is what I sent back. Can you see the tears in my eyes? No neighbors, no problems. House to ourselves. Sorry, you neglected to mention in the Facebook blast that you sent out that you have paying tenants that live there. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, excuse me? The audacity is beyond comprehension, quite frankly. Oh my god, just even remembering this makes me want to fucking die. 493 people! I beg your finest fucking pardon! Surely I am hallucinating this, right? This can't be real, right? Wrong. It's real. And this feels like an excellent time to remind you what this fucking block that the party is gonna be held on looks like. This is the size of the fucking backyard. 493 people? And this is basically when the friendship ended. So go to the next part and we're gonna start with the text message conflict that ended. Welcome to part 4 of the Landlord saga. This is the part where shit goes down and the friendship ends. It just gets worse from here on out. As you know, we left off in the last part getting a Facebook invite to a banger the exact weekend we were moving out of our place of residence, and it was at our place of residence. The most ridiculous description of all time, and 493 people invited. So now it's time to confront the issue, okay? Same day. My ex writes in the group chat, she starts off the message with something about showing the apartment, and then says, I did also see the invite for the party on Facebook. It seems like it'll be super fun. I was always hoping to see Steve do some rap battle shit. I'm not sure if maybe there was a miscommunication when we were chatting about it, but we're supposed to be packing and moving a lot of our stuff that weekend. The new space is available August 1st, but the current tenants are going to be out a few days ahead so that we can clean and start moving things over right away so that everything is out and clean and good to go by that 3rd week. I'm worried it'll be tight for everyone trying to jam and have a good time, and for us moving stuff around downstairs and up here and bringing it out, so I wanted to make sure you knew what we have going on. I'm definitely not trying to be a Debbie Downer. Moving is kind of stressful and there's a lot to coordinate and plan, having another person moving also because we had a roommate that was moving into the new place with us. And with the animals, so I just wanted to be super transparent. For a moment, I'm like, maybe this will get resolved. Grace responds and says, hello, okay, I'll let, and then this is 2 names that I don't know who these people are. I can't remember. I'm sure I knew them at one point, but like, what do they have to do with this situation? I don't know. Okay, I'll let these random people know about this weekend or next week and see what they think. Also, yes, then we were confused. We thought your big move weekend was the first full August weekend, the 7th through the 8th. And you could party before you leave. I'd just like to reiterate that we had found out about the party through Facebook earlier that day, not through them. And we had had the conversation about when we were going to move out 2 weeks ago. Whatever. Anyways, it looks like it might get resolved because she said it definitely would be a bit of a mess trying to have a party when you're trying to move a bunch of your stuff. I'll let Steve pick an alternative weekend. This party is his baby. I am just watching from the sidelines. LOL. So then Steve says, I figured we'd be lending a hand anyways, meaning like with our moving. You think we can tackle the majority of stuff before 7 p.m.? I already booked a DJ, but we'll try and move to accommodate. Do you guys have a set day for the movers to come so I can plan around it? If we rented a U-Haul, we could fill it in one trip in the morning with the 4 of us easy. I'll even drive it down if you'd like. Figure I'll push the party back a few weeks, just don't want to get in the way of something else, so just let me know. What do you mean, do we have a set date? We told you we were moving the first weekend of August and that I go back to work on August 6th, which is before the 2nd week of August, the 7th through the 8th. Also, to be very clear, like, they've had parties before, right? Never anything like this. This is a new thing that is being birthed on moving weekend. Can you birth your baby at a different time? Like, please. Anyways, this is when it gets really embarrassing because this is like a mentally ill text from me because I explained too much. In my brain, I'm thinking, if I just explain all the logic to them, we'll then understand why this is such a huge issue. And of course they won't have the party. Of course, as our friends, they would never do that to us. I wish I had been way more direct and so much less wordy, dude. It's like I'm talking to people who don't give a single fuck about what I have to say. We didn't answer the last text message, so 2 days later, we haven't heard anything about the party date being changed, and nothing has changed on the Facebook page. So I text and say, hola, real quick, I just wanted to touch base about the party. I just wanted to check and see if you had a new date picked because having it up in the air is nerve-wracking. If you're still deciding, I just wanted to say my piece before you made that choice. I'm hoping this doesn't come off confrontational and instead is received as me voicing concerns because I love you both so much and I don't want to come off as rude. I'm just trying to have an honest discussion about what this might mean for us and lay it all out on the table. So embarrassing now because like knowing they hated me and I was just sitting here just trying to, anyways. Ugh. So problem one is that we only have a limited amount of days off from work and made a strategic plan with a lot of moving parts right after we had that convo about moving details, which includes filling the box truck on the 31st with help from our families and keeping it overnight to bring the next day. It's not something at this point that we can change. The box truck has to come on the 31st. Our new roommate has movers coming on specific days and we're strategizing cleaning the house around our respective trips. I'm not going to read this next part out loud, but you can pause to read if you want. I just don't want to upset the TikTok gods. I'm talking about the Rona. I'm talking about the Rona and how I don't want to be involved in a super spreader event. So that's that whole paragraph, like up to here. You can read it if you want. That's still how I feel, especially because when I eventually did get Rona, it ruined my life. So still struggle every day as a result of that. And this took place in 2021. Again, it was like August of 2021. So after that stuff, I say mostly though, one of the big issues with that happening when we are still here is the noise level for the animals who are about to be very stressed out from us packing / the move in general. The old cat that belongs to my ex is who we are most worried about. The move is going to be especially hard on her and the stress of the noise would cause a serious problem with her if she gets stressed out. For additional context, this cat was diabetic and was on insulin twice a day. She was like medically fragile, and so being stressed out is not good for her. Get together is one thing, a block party is another. I kept going too. I left no stone unturned. I said, also, I trust your judgment in people, but I know people are bringing others that you might not know, and I'm nervous something might happen to the stuff we have stored downstairs since we're packing and adding more stuff down there in preparation. Drunk people do things that don't always make sense. I say this as a person who gets drunk and does things that don't make sense, and with that many people coming, the likelihood of something like that happening is so much higher. I'm sorry to hit you with this novel, but if we had known this was something you guys were thinking of doing, I definitely would have expressed it sooner. I do also just want to say that I appreciate you guys offering to help move and wanting us to attend because it means a lot that you thought to include us while we're still here. Unfortunately, those are the big days for us, and I wanted you to be aware that it's not something we are able to move around. I'm really just hoping we don't have to maneuver through crowds of people that day / night getting things loaded. It's also not fair to you because I know this event is important and you don't deserve to have a really special day made difficult because we're taking up driveway space and bringing things out for hours. I hope you can understand where we're coming from. This is not me attacking you at all. I'm just worried. Buckle up, bitches. Here we go. Steve says, I really appreciate you taking the time to put all your thoughts together. Keep in mind, I've got 25 people maybe I can count on coming, and I'm more worried about a bust than a banger. Spoiler alert, it was a block party, and bad things happened. And I'll tell you all about it and show you when we get there. Continuing, not going to be much different than anything else we've done here, but I'm pretty set on making it happen. 4 weeks in advance doesn't seem to me like last minute inconvenience on you, and I don't care about a box truck being on the premises during the event. If you are that inconvenienced by a few hour window you can't make trips to your truck with boxes, then I'll gladly make up the difference with trips to the truck for you. The commotion is going to be on the opposite side of the house from you guys purposely for that reason. And I can see how the invite might seem intimidating. A new event is being created. Oh, because like, actually, hold on. Sorry, I fucked up. This was the original Facebook invitation. It was framed as like a music festival, rap battle sort of situation with a bunch of live performances starting July 31st at 8 p.m. This was the original description and it still has that no neighbors, no problems. So like, what are we? Yeah, technically you have no neighbors because your neighbor is a gas station and a bunch of parking lots, but you do have tenants that pay to live there. This is how it said invited 74, whatever, and then going 56. So this is what we were actually responding to. The 493 person event actually happened after the rest of this conversation. And it was clearly just like retaliation because they were angry at us. But anyways, I'm gonna keep going. The new event is being created with the actual people coming and it will seem a lot less like an apocalyptic event. Hey, Steve. You are an asshole. The fact is we are 3+ weeks from the event with 25 flaky people saying they are maybe coming. Again, it ended up being over 100 and bad things happen. At this point, it's happening. And to tell the kid who moved every year of his life growing up how stressful a move can be will be reminded that we had one day to do everything every single time. So I will gladly hunker down, bust my ass, and single-handedly yeet your stuff across the border with you on any day at any times except for that night. Nobody's asking for you to help us move. You keep just telling us that you are down to help instead of just letting us move out like normal people instead of throwing a fucking block party. Oh my God. Moving sucks without friends, and I've just assumed that you will graciously accept the immense amount of help I planned on offering because y'all have been amazing friends and deserve it. This is when I start to get angry. I said, okay, sorry for your late response. I'm at work and we were packing last night. I started writing a big long response because I have some issues with what you said last night, but it doesn't make sense to try and convince you when you've already made that decision. Truly, I don't think we're being unreasonable by being upset that there's a banger plan for the exact weekend we outlined as our moving weekend when we all spoke. It's also kind of upsetting that you initially agreed that it would make things difficult and then are now backtracking on that initial response, attempting to provide solutions to a problem I'm surprised that we are even having in the first place. Our main concern is the elderly cat, not just running into people outside, although we're not thrilled about that prospect, which I also feel is understandable. I hope you're right that it's a smaller crowd. It wasn't. And I know it will be a great time regardless. I didn't have a fun time. We appreciate the offer of help. We have our families coming, which should be plenty of hands, but we will definitely let you know if we could use extra. And then just stuff about showing the apartment the next day. This is the first time I feel like I was appropriately direct. It was at this point where I was like, they're definitely like being hurtful on purpose. Like, I don't know, especially with what they did after. Even in like the following days, like making that new, like bigger Facebook invitation. Anyways, I'm running out of time again. Go to the next part for his.
So this is in the middle of the vid, and he's inviting 400, almost 500 people here. Don't nobody even know what's really going on. Everybody wearing all types of crazy shit on their face as a mask, and he's inviting 500 people for some sort of music festival at his small ass house across the street from a gas station and some vacant parking lots, and he not even at a venue. How y'all feel about him wanting to have this festival, this event, this kickback, this party, whatever it is he's calling it, on the same day they're supposed to move out? Like, you couldn't wait 2-3 days later? They're moving things in and out of the house. You have over 500 people that you invited, not to say that they came, but that you invited. So just say all of them did come. They're in the house. They're trying to move. And yes, he tried to make a valid point that everything that's going on is going to be on the other side of this and the other side of that. But at the end of the day, we're all going to be in the same space. I'm sure you're not going to have enough crowd control to keep them people down in that one small ass basement. People are going to be all upstairs, all in my personal business, all in the shed, all over there where the car is at. They're going to be everywhere. And we're trying to move. Let's see what he had to say.
This is part 5 of the landlord saga. We're getting to Steve's response now. He says, the night we spoke, you said the first weekend of August, which implies the 7th and 8th being that's the first full weekend of the month. This is what that month looked like, okay? The 31st was a Saturday, August 1st was a Sunday. I told them I have PTO from the 30th through the 6th. So why would we be having movers come the 7th and the 8th when I go back to work? We talked about this thoroughly in person. Like, I'm just, oh my God. And when Grace sent you a video outlining where we all stood, she also said 7th and 8th in the video, and you guys confirmed. He is referencing this video that Grace had sent talking about like the breakdown of the security deposit and rent that we were paying for the weeks that we are still like paying for in August at the apartment. In this video, which is like 2 minutes long and is about a bunch of things. Actually, hold on, I'm just gonna show you. This is the video that Grace sent to us, and sorry, I will be over here because I'm covering literally someone's social security number.
And if you guys have movers coming like this first weekend, maybe we could ask if you guys could be like out by like this weekend, like the 21st, 22nd.
So like, as you can see, she does like a circly movement around and she points to the 7th and the 8th, but doesn't say 7th and 8th out loud, but then afterwards says 21st, 22nd. When I saw this video, I thought it was just an oopsie because we had talked in detail about the weekend before. She knew that my last day of PTO was the 6th. So why would we have movers coming the 7th to the 8th? I thought it was just a brain, oops, my bad. But like, she did point to the 7th and the 8th in the video. So they are right about that. Why is my consequence for not correcting you on that you are now throwing a block party the weekend we are moving out? How would I ever have been able to see that coming? Why would you do that? They just are fixated on the 7th and the 8th as if that's the major issue here. He says, and when Grace sent you a video outlining where we all stood, she also said 7th and 8th in the video, and you guys confirmed, and no one mentioned anything about the 31st. So to assume I haven't thought this out, I was literally thinking of you guys when I set it in motion. I'm not asking for permission, nor did I make any concessions that I took back. I get you're upset about not being consulted first, but I made moves based on the information I received, and Grace confirmed. After the initial what the fuck text, I did even try to check with the DJ to try and move the date, and he is booked literally every other weekend this summer, so I'm set on this date at this point, and I don't think it's going to be as bad as you're imagining. Again, spoiler alert, it was. Painting a pretty dark picture over me throwing a party at my own house with a month's notice and a day you never said was an issue until after the fact. You just wait till you hear what happened at this party. Additionally, I'd like to point out that this is the vibe of like treating us like we are family that you're letting stay in a bedroom in your home. Like, this is my house and I'll do what I want. We pay rent to live in a completely separate apartment. It is attached to the home that you are throwing a block party at. If you want to throw block parties, don't be a landlord. Why are you complaining about the job you chose to have? You have to provide certain things for your tenants, and one of those is a non-block party residence. And as someone who is supposed to be a friend, especially to my ex, like, I get not liking me or whatever, but this is like a dickish move to do to your best friend. Anyways, it gets more annoying. A few hours out of your life to appease me on a Saturday night with a month to move after I tried to schedule around you, and I'm painted in this inconsiderate light, and that's just cold. People love to call you cold when you assert yourself. Has any of this given cold? Like, my decision-making process hasn't already factored in the variables. I just can't help when you change them or fail to communicate them. Oh no. I literally didn't even consult Grace first because this really just is another party. It wasn't. DJ will be a setting up on our side of the lawn with party over there, and the noise shouldn't be anything out of the ordinary for a party. Remember how small the backyard is? Remember that now again. So I just say, okay then, enjoy. We'll agree to disagree on this one. I'm thinking last straw, friendship over, I'm done. Like, it's not even worth arguing with you fucking people anymore. But we do keep arguing. Steve says, I mean, the fact is you told us the wrong weekend. Can't argue that. Watch the video Grace sent and tell me I'm wrong. Again, he's right that video, she points to the 7th and the 8th. That does not mean that's what we talked about. And I'm sorry for not correcting you. I didn't think you'd be throwing a fucking party. And my ex pops in and says, this is the last contribution I'm making to this conversation, and then I'm not having the conversation anymore. This is me wearing my tenant hat. Kaylin said she would be back at work on the 6th. Grace did mention that first weekend of August for movers. However, we are also moving other things of our own accord in order to get everything done and clean by the deadline we all decided on. I understand this is your house and you tried to change the date and you offered to help, and we really appreciate all of that. It just may be helpful to consider in the future the approach being taken when throwing a party at your residence during a time that you know your tenants will be preparing to and actively moving. I love both of you and don't want any trouble, but we did approach this without aggression and in a transparent manner, so I'm unsure of when the tone change happened. I'm sure your party will be great. And then this is when it becomes evident to me that it is me they have an issue with. As Steve says, I totally get it, and I'm really sorry for how it's all going with this. That was an incredibly thoughtful and level-headed response. The most valid of all the points made here by far. I guess I just assumed y'all would be rocking with me as we celebrate all the positive things we all have going on right now, and I'm really sorry it's made you feel like this wasn't the plan. And I own up to that. I am truly sorry for it. You see the pattern of like non-apologies? They both do it. I wonder what their arguments are like. Is it just like non-apologies back and forth, like AIs talking to each other? Jesus fucking Christ. My ex says, we love celebrating with you guys. It was never intended to be a conflict, but the previously mentioned concerns from Kaylin and I arose when I saw the Facebook event and we didn't know what was going on. Those concerns are still present and I feel very valid, but it is definitely helpful to know what you mentioned about the DJ and the side yard. I appreciate your apology, and I'm hoping we can all peacefully go about what we need and want to do that day without any issues between all of us. It would be sad to leave on a bad note, and I don't think any of us want that. Steve says, trust. My girlfriend found out it the same way, so it wasn't my brightest move. Which means Steve didn't talk to his landlord either before he made the decision to have a banger at his home. Sorry, back then it was not named Banger yet. It was the music festival. It had like 55 people invited. The 493 was not until after all this. Then Steve goes, you guys will always have us in your corner, and I promise you will feel better when you see the event reposted with clear-cut details, instructions, and a guest list. Which is, again, the 493 people invited event. You deserve to feel comfortable in this house as long as you're here, and I'm assuming my Saturday is going to be 1,001 trips to a box truck like I already planned on. So I mean, I fucked up in the approach, but was hoping a de facto going away party vibe was in the cards. That's not what this is. You are throwing a music festival on the next to a gas station, really. Excuses, I tell you. Hence why it would need to happen before you leave. Surprised you didn't read my mind. Grace couldn't either. I'm going to start saying it out loud for the benefit of the people around me, which I think was supposed to be a joke, but it should be real. It says, the people around me moving forward, I am really sorry. I was very angry. We actually didn't speak ever again, actually, until we sent them the videos of them breaking into our apartment on August 4th, which we will eventually get to. That is incident number 3. But first, I need to tell you about the party, which was such a traumatic experience. It was everything they claimed it wouldn't be, and was intentionally made into a block party, probably partially out of just pure spite. I'd like to have that all in one part, so that will be the next video. I will see you there. Part 6 of the Landlord saga. It is now July 31st, the day of the block party my landlords are throwing, the day we're moving out. Because they basically said, fuck you, we're gonna have this party anyways, even though you've raised your concerns. My ex and I started preparing for this party. We knew that the old tenants in our new place were going to be out sometime on the 31st, and we were betting on that. We came up with a plan. My mom and my stepdad were going to come to the apartment with a trailer. On the 31st, they were going to load it up with everything that we were keeping in the basement, because when the party is happening and all these drunk people are in there, and we don't even know how many people are going to be there, those are the things that are at risk of getting destroyed. Then, if the old tenants are out in time, awesome, they'll just drive it to the new place and unload everything. If they take a while to get out on the 31st, then at least the stuff is with my family and not in a U-Haul that we're paying money for. Then, we're also going to rent a U-Haul for the 31st. We're going to fill it up with as much of our shit as possible, and then we're going to either leave it outside in the driveway if the tenants are not out on time, and then bring it to the new house on the 1st. Or if they're out on the 31st, we're just gonna do a trip then. Another thing we did was purchase a door jamb. And that's where this becomes relevant again, because if you remember, the entire party is happening in this little strip of grass, and they're saying, oh, we'll keep it to over here, instead of like on this side that's near your entrance. We're gonna keep the whole party to this side of the grass only, and inside the basement. But this is also an issue because if there are people in the basement and they are going up the stairs into your side of the house to use the bathroom and stuff, what's to stop them from trying to enter our side? And it's just this flimsy little doorknob lock. It's not like a deadbolt. Basically, there are going to be so many people around us, and I wanted to make sure that nobody could get into our apartment. And you know what? I am so fucking glad we bought that thing because we needed it. Not to mention, no neighbors, no problems. Nobody that's attending this party knows that a portion of the house is off limits, that there are people paying to live there. Anyways, those were the preparations we made. July 31st rolls around. By some miracle, the tenants are out at like 11 a.m. So I do exactly what we said. A trailer full of shit that had all the basement stuff goes to the house. The box truck gets filled and we do a trip to the house. I start doing some cleaning at the house and we're like, okay, we're gonna make sure that we're back at the apartment and with the animals before this party starts. So we stop at the grocery store, get some snacks, and then go back to the apartment. 8 p.m., there were already like 25, 30 people outside. On our way inside, we pass by this sign. And I bring this up because if we're making signs, you know what would have been an awesome sign? One on our front door that said, do not enter. Maybe one on the door coming up from the basement that says, do not enter. Anyways, we go inside. I throw in a load of laundry in the basement. Back upstairs, we eat our dinner. There's more people coming, even in that next hour. 9 p.m., I go down with a laundry basket to do one more load of laundry and to move the stuff that was in the washer to the dryer. You ready for this? When I come down the stairs, I turn the corner to where the washing machine is. I see 5 grown men huddled around the washing machine, cutting up lines of a substance. They are doing lines of a substance off of the lid of the washing machine where my clothes are. It's 9 p.m. I start seeing red at this point. And I want to be very clear. I have never done such a substance. I have never been around such a substance. I don't hang out with people who do those substances. This is the first time I'm ever seeing it in real life. And I just go, what the fuck are you doing? One who's chopping it up turns around and looks at me. I actually recognize him. I've seen him around every once in a while. And I go, what the fuck are you doing? I had my mom voice on, so all of them literally were like, and they're also like on substances, and they're just like, backing away from me. I was like, I have stuff in there that I need to take out and put in there. The guy's like, oh, I'm so sorry. He starts like scraping it off. At the same time, he's talking to my ex. And also, fun fact, she knows all of these people. They're like people she hasn't seen in a really long time. They're trying to make small talk while he's like scraping it all up. Like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. Like, what's up? And she's like, nothing. I'm just preparing to move tomorrow. And they're like, oh, you're moving tomorrow? And she's like, yeah, well, we're in the middle of moving right now, actually. Then the guy stops his scraping to join in the conversation. And I'm like, hello? Hello? After we successfully move our laundry and I have effectively ruined all of their highs. We go back upstairs and we lock the door and we put the door jamb in. Did not leave that apartment until the next morning. Nay, couldn't leave the apartment until the next morning. Approximately 100 people showed up that night. That shit went all night long until like 4 a.m. It gets worse, but first I want to show you the videos we took that night of what it was like. We were just sitting in the living room on the floor, recording with our phones like this or like on the carpet. This is what it sounded like. First video was taken at 10:49 p.m. I literally just put my phone down on the carpet. That's just to give you an idea of the ambiance that we started with. Around 2 a.m., we caught this lovely argument happening right outside of our door. Also, it's important to mention that at this time, people were trying our front door over and over again. Like, they would open the screen and then try the locked front door. When it wouldn't open, they'd be peering into the windows. And then the scariest thing happened. 2 drunk men came up the stairs, stopped in front of our door, tried the doorknob, it didn't open, and they proceeded to body slam the door. We're just sitting there on the living room floor watching as they're hitting the door. The bottom of it is like buckling in a little bit, but the door jamb was up at the top, so it was like not going anywhere. But yeah, if that hadn't been there, that door would have come open. They were hitting it that hard. That was the scariest moment of the night for me. Our groups of people smoking cigarettes on like our porch, their backs right up against our door, throwing their cigarette butts into our black-eyed Susans. And that is why I took the time to mention the cigarette clause that they put in the lease specifically as like a dig to my ex. We went through all that work and then your guests are putting their cigarette butts in our flowers. Anyways, that just continued until like 4 or 5 a.m. After it all stops, finally, we fall asleep for like a couple hours before we have to get up and start our day of moving. All of our animals are traumatized. And my biggest regret from this time is that I didn't call the cops. I should have gotten that shit shut down. Hello, yes, there's a noise ordinance being broken in the middle of the night, and I'm pretty sure there's illegal substances on the premises. We thought about it, but that's like life-ruining shit. So we didn't, but to be honest with you, that is the thing I'd change most if I could go back in time. I would have rang up the police and gotten a good night's rest. Anyway, that next morning, I was in the kitchen and I looked out of the screen door and I saw Grace picking cigarette butts out of all of our flowers. There had been over 100 people on the premises and it looked like over 100 people had been on the premises. Shit everywhere, just so many fucking cans. All I can say is that I am so glad that our belongings were not in that basement. And with that, we conclude the second of the 3 major incidents. As you know, the third and final incident is them breaking into our apartment in the next coming days, while we were still paying for that space and still had our belongings there. In the next part, we're going to be going over that final in-between incident and then the third major incident, because they are directly related and they're part of that same story. We're finally getting closer to the end, you guys, but we're going out with a bang. I will see you in the next part. Part 7 of the Landlord saga. This is the one where you get to see the video of them breaking into our apartment. Probably be towards the end of this video because I got to tell you how we got there. July 31st into August 1st was the final night we stayed at the apartment. After that party, we did not want to stay a night in that place ever again. So we worked overtime on August 1st to get all of our essential belongings from the apartment to the new house. That is where we slept every night starting August 1st. But in the days following, we were still spending a lot of time at the apartment, like packing up our shit and taking car trips and yada yada. Just as a reminder, we're paying for this space through like the 22nd of August, so this is still a place we are renting. After the party, my ex and I did not talk to Grace and Steve. That party turned out to be everything they promised that it wouldn't, and yet everything they had engineered it to be. On August 3rd, my ex and I head back to the apartment for the day, and we're like packing up some more stuff and like putting stuff in our car. We load up a vehicle with as much shit as we can, and we start heading back towards our new house. Get like 5 minutes down the road, and my ex is like, oh my god, I forgot to turn off the mini split, which also, I forgot to mention this entire time, at some point after the winter, they had installed a mini split to like help make it cooler and hotter in there. It's like a heating thing and cooling thing that's mounted in the wall, and it like has a little remote that you can adjust. So that way the tenants can adjust the temperature of the unit. 5 minutes down the road, my ex is like, oh my god, we forgot to turn it off. Like, we should go back and turn it off so that we're not wasting a bunch of electricity. So we turn the car around, go back into the apartment, and shut off the mini split. Then we go on our merry way back to the house. We sleep there. We wake up the next morning. We get our shit together. We head back to the apartment. We enter the apartment. The mini split is on. That's weird. That definitely was off when we left last night. I know, because we turned around and came back. So why is it on again? We load up the car. We go back home to our house. We sleep there overnight. That night, I have a dream. I shit you not. Dream opens, I am standing next to my ex. She's on her phone going, oh my God. And she's showing me a notification from the Furbo, like the pet video camera, saying a person has been detected. He opens it up and it's a video of them going into the apartment when we're not there. Which, in case you didn't know, is illegal. And this is still a dream, but in the dream, my ex saves the videos to her phone, sends them to Grace and Steve in the group chat, along with a screenshot of state law about providing 24 hours notice. I wake up from this dream. I look at my ex and go, I just had a dream that everything I just said. I'm like, do you think that's why the mini split was on when we went back to the apartment today? Do you think they broke in? Why would they go in there just to turn on the mini split? That doesn't make any fucking sense. But I'm like, we should set up the Furbo when we leave tonight, because we're gonna like go back there today and do the same thing again. We should set up the Furbo, point it towards the basement, like the door that opens to the basement, and see if it happens. So that's exactly what we do. We set up a video camera pointing right at that door. And sure enough, mere moments after we leave the apartment, break in, and I caught it on video. Here is that. Furbo recorded 2 15-second clips, so I'm going to show you them.
No, this is what it always not good. Yeah. Over now. It's actually worse than the kitchen pen.
I want to be very clear, I dreamt that. Anyways, I'm assuming after this they go into the kitchen, like away from the camera, to try and like regroup and like figure out what they're gonna do. But they come up with their little plan about what they're gonna say in front of the camera the next time they walk by it. And here's the second video.
So they were but honestly enough, this apple neither. There's nothing that the chocolate syrup did.
Now, before I get into what is essentially the final and biggest blowout text argument of this whole thing, I would like to tell you some of my thoughts, which are, in the first video, when they're opening the door and talking about like something smelling, they're talking about dog pee. Because as we will find out later, they are so fucking paranoid that my ex's dog was peeing on everything. He was not. He had occasional accidents and they were thoroughly cleaned. I'm talking like 3 accidents on a carpeted area. Any other time that dog peed on the floor, it was on linoleum because he missed the pee pad. Nothing about that apartment smelled like dog piss. Obviously, I can't prove that to you, but what I can do is show you the fucking video of me walking through the apartment with a black light, shining it on every surface, and there's nothing lighting up. There was none in that fucking apartment. So piss where? I also really loved on the way back how they're like playing it cool, talking about like looking at the apartment going like, oh, Home Depot didn't really do that great of a job. Saying words for the sake of saying words because they know they did something illegal. And while I can't prove that they were the ones who turned the mini split on the day before, obviously they were, in my opinion, allegedly. Not only are you breaking into our apartment, but signs are showing that this might have been a regular occurrence. What are you doing in there, really? Anyways, just like my dream, my ex sends those 2 videos to the group chat along with a screenshot of state law, with the circled part being about the 24 hours notice, or like entering into a tenant's living space. Steve responds and says, I get that, but I could smell urine smell in the basement stair area, and it's not unreasonable to inspect the problem. And that, folks, is a legal admission of guilt, and also a very poor excuse for breaking the law. X says, actually, no. Steve says, I don't see a problem when you guys are leaving. I need to figure out how much professional cleaning I need to coordinate, and I don't mind paying to clean it, and you can still keep the security deposit. I need to plan accordingly, and a red alarm went off when I could smell it and can see that every window is closed in the apartment. What? I say, you still have to give notice. You are not allowed to enter an apartment that we are paying for without notice. No buts. To which Steve says, I'm not trying to be disrespectful or invade your stuff. Not going to happen again. And I say, that was both disrespectful and invasive, so I'm glad you won't be doing it again. 2 days later, on August 6th, Steve writes again in the group chat, and he sends a picture of the world's smallest chihuahua turd with this lovely message. If I came and pissed on your floor and crapped in your walkway, that would be disrespectful. Did nothing but bend over backwards trying to make this work for y'all and you want to go threat level midnight and grab at straws to find a reason to hate me, when really, I bit my tongue off every day as I scoured the grounds for dog turds so I don't track it into my house for the 37th time. And pee soaking through the floor doesn't fly anywhere else, so you're damn lucky I would still embrace y'all with love if you chose to stop being so mad. Yes, I yearn for your love, Steve. He continues, the world is not what you read on the internet. It's what beats you down along the way. My ex's name. You know that. Kaylin, I hope you don't have to find that out as we have. I'd never do anything on purpose to make this life any harder for you, cause my God, it's hard enough. But Kaylin, you've chosen to be Kaylin, you've chosen to be difficult and chosen to make problems out of what is actually normal for people like me and my ex. And think you're fighting a battle for justice, but really you're expecting a world that hasn't existed for some time. Send me more screenshots from the internet and I'll remind you I know damn well what a tenant can reasonably expect in the real world, and I've given you the world in comparison. To treat me any less than the considerate and caring friend I've been to you is a slap in the face. And I implore you to find people like us out there again. Actually, I will be avoiding that at all costs. Thank you so much. Why are you mad at me specifically? Like, whatever. And he sends our own screenshot back to us, along with a cute little story. For context, on May 17th, my landlord, Joanne, and I'm keeping Joanne in there because why are you telling me about Joanne? My landlord, Joanne, arrived at my apartment and roasted me for the trash that was still there. We had the full month paid and we're already in this new place and she just needed to go back and clean. She had no excuse for showing up other than the inspecting the premises within last 30 days of tenancy to determine the amount of damage. She didn't let me know. She simply walked through the door of my house, and it didn't even cross my mind for a second to threaten her with a restraining order. Like, what the fuck? Some of us need to maintain relationships and landlord references. You want to burn the bridge on your way out? That's all on you, because I still got love and understand you're stressed. If y'all lit a candle, I'd have never known the extent of the damage you've done to that apartment because, my God, the smell is awful. Which, am I stupid or does that not make any sense? You should be ashamed of the way you took advantage of our kindness when it worked for you, but demanded a landlord hat when we made an honest mistake. Have fun in a world with zero connections because you demanded perfection from everyone around you except for yourself and chose to look for reasons to be mad instead of being grateful. Because I was still grateful to have you here no matter how mad I was watching you wear a sweatshirt in a heat wave and a t-shirt in a snowstorm on our dollar. Every conversation we've ever had, Kaylin, was a one-sided narrative about how hard your life is, and it's wild how entitled you think you are to respect when you quite literally shit and pissed all over our friendship. I have a lot to say, but I want to get through the rest of this first. I'm running out of time again, so the next part will start with the epically long response that my ex sent. That's so long that it's one of those iMessages that you need to open up in a separate screen, and it's an absolute mic drop. So see you in the next one. Part 8 of the Landlord Saga. I think this might be the last video. Where we left off, Steve just sent the most strange and aggressive message. As a response, I remind you, to being called out for illegally breaking into the apartment. Now I'm going to read you my ex's response, which is so long of an iMessage that it's one of the ones where you have to click and it opens in a new screen. It is an absolute mic drop. She starts, "Hi, this is my ex's name. I'm the one who sent the screenshots, and I can tell you that shit you sent a picture of must have been kicked into the walkway by the 75 people you had over last weekend because dog has not pooped at that property since before the party." 75 is a conservative number. It was like over 100, which, by the way, was a disrespectful move in itself. I could not exit my apartment without risking COVID and my dog's safety. Multiple people kept trying to enter the apartment that night, so it's a good thing I locked the doors. We couldn't even go down to do laundry to prepare to move without running into your friends doing off the washing machine that our clothes were in. These issues are not just Kaylin's, and I am not threatening a restraining order. I am letting you know that you broke the law by entering our apartment that we pay for without reasonable cause or any notice. You broke the law, but because I didn't want to burn any bridges, I did not choose to call the cops that night or the night of your party, which was much more ridiculous and disturbing than you promised us it would be. Every time I went to pick up dog's poop, you had either done it already or I couldn't find the scoop, or you said you did it and it was no problem, so please do not threaten me with a picture of my dog's poop. If you are smelling urine in the basement, you should ask the 75 people you had over last weekend because my animals have not been there and the carpet was shampooed before Grace showed the apartment. Where was the urine smell 6 months ago if this was an issue? Do not come at Kaylin for concerns I have raised to you that you have ignored. Do not enter into the apartment unannounced because not only is that illegal, but if you guys are my friends, why couldn't you just tell me that you needed to go in there? Why did you have to sneak around? If you spent so much time addressing my concerns, why did I have to shut myself into my own living space last weekend to feel safe? I have never once taken advantage of you when letting you know the apartment was consistently lower than 60 in the winter or that something you are doing is a concern. This is not a complaint. This is an attempt at receiving some consideration from other humans that are all supposed to care for each other. I personally tried to set the landlord-tenant hat boundaries that you are knocking Kaylin for so that no one would be taking advantage of our friendship, as our roles and responsibilities separate from our friendships would be preset. I'm honestly disappointed and feeling truly betrayed by both you and Grace despite the love I have for you, as I have been lied to not only about what you would do and what the party would entail, but also by you sneaking into the apartment at night without even so much as letting me know you had a concern, and only now having so many mean and targeted things to say because I caught you on the camera that I bought to make sure Dog would stop making so much noise because his little barks were bothering you both so much. I did whatever I could do to get that dog to stop barking in the day, and I did it. However, I had to listen to crowds of people talking loud and clear around me last weekend while sitting on my living room couch at 3 a.m. Do not blame this on Kaylin, as she is probably someone who has shown me the most respect and consideration and is only trying to provide me with support. We had been nice and kind in the way we presented each concern that was then treated with disregard or hostility, as you are now. Do not talk to me about taking advantage of resources when Kaylin has been paying you extra rent the past 6 months that was not listed in the lease just because we wanted to ensure everything was covered and you guys weren't incurring extra costs even though the lease says utilities are included. This is absolutely ridiculous. There is no urine smell from this dog in that basement, and if you still aren't hearing me, I'm not sure what else to say. Shame on both of you. Which, like, yes. I remember watching her type this. She pulled out her laptop to do it. Steve clings onto a single detail from that entire thing and says, that was 2 weeks ago, and sends the date. Because that's what manipulative people do. They cling on to little details when you're trying to express how you feel, and they use that to distract you from having a conversation about their overall behavior. He says, click on the image, date is above it, and the countless turds in the brown mulch which are damn near impossible to see. The ones right on the edge of the grass next to the gate. I've stepped in all of them. Broke the law? Urine seeping through the floor to the point people were asking me why my basement smelled like pee? More than in my rights to investigate. I cannot stress enough to you how bullshit this is. And again, while I can't prove that it doesn't smell like pee, because how can I prove that now? I do have a video of me walking through the apartment with a black light. Ain't nothing lighting up. My ex says, then it is your responsibility as a landlord to raise that concern so that I may take care of it instead of waiting until I send you a video of yourselves breaking the law. It seems as though you've kept this as ammunition instead of calmly raising a concern to be solved by friends as we have previously done. Please stop lying about the urine smell, as this was never something you mentioned as an existing concern before, and the carpets had already been cleaned prior and my animals removed. Also, a urine smell is not justifiable for breaking into a rental property without even so much as sending a message to someone you're supposed to be friends with and renting to. Entering the apartment unannounced like that is not justified by the law for a supposed urine smell, only emergencies such as fire, flood, and a gas leak. Steve says, you clearly don't understand the law, and the condition of that apartment is despicable. Get laughed out of a courtroom if you take it there. To which my ex says, I'm sorry? LOL. I'm gonna show you some photos of the apartment the day we left it, and you can tell me if you think the condition looks despicable. Does this look despicable? What about this? Does this look despicable? What about over here? Is that despicable? Inside of the drawers for good measure. Do those look despicable? What about here? How we feeling about here? And the tub? She's clean. Not despicable. Here's the inside of the fridge. Does that look despicable to you? I'd say it looks demure, very mindful. Anyways, my ex responded to that text saying, I'm sorry, LOL. And then Grace says, okay, stop. And I say, oh, there she is, welcome. Steve says, you must be used to the smell if you think it's unreasonable for someone to need to get to the bottom of it. Grace says, hi, Kaylin. I have been carefully crafting a 4-page email for my friend, my ex, in an attempt to resolve this calmly rather than via text. And I say, man, that email must have taken a long time considering you have opted out of this discussion for nearly a month. Grace says, clearly there's a lot of unspoken issues here, and I didn't think a group text was the best place to hash them all out. Which I said, nope, I want it in writing. Meaning, like, I want it in writing. Me, your tenant. She says an email is in writing, because she misunderstood what I said. I said, to one of your tenants and not both? Steve says, we don't owe you anything. You pretend like we are out to get you when really just trying to fix our damn house. Legit not even mad because of the damage. What damage? Is the damage in the room with us right now? Mad because you sit here festering in unjustified hatred for people who coddled you. Is the coddling in the room with us right now? Then Grace says, and I also sent my friend my ex an individual text regarding my stance on the party that I would have assumed she would share with you. You can both be tenants, but I can also have conversations with my friend whenever I want. I said, then do the appropriate thing and follow landlord-tenant laws in our state. Or at the very least, refer back to the lease you made us sign regarding 24 hours notice because you violated that too. Steve says, imagine thinking you're the victim after trashing your friend's apartment. Even on a technicality, your argument is thin and just a lifeline for you to voice your other concerns. Kids, this is what we call projection. Grace says, Steve, stop. And I said, keep talking, Steve. My ex says, we did not trash that apartment. You broke in before we even had our stuff out to snoop. Please stop talking, Steve, or keep talking if you want to threaten legal action. But at the very least, I would like to not have to do that to Grace. Then Steve says, I still got nothing but love for you all and still will never make your life any harder. I don't know why you think we'd ever operate with malicious intent after how much we showed you love. Is the love in the room with us right now? I cannot. And then we didn't answer. And then the next text that I sent them was a picture of the keys on the counter just for like my own documentation purposes. That was the last interaction that I ever had with them. However, at some point between that last interaction and me sending the picture of the key, Grace sent her 4-page letter. And I will not be sharing the contents of that letter with you because it was sent directly to my ex and it was incredibly hurtful. Grace then blocked me on Instagram, which is funny for a couple reasons. She blocked my only Instagram account that I had at the time, which was my Finsta. Later, like a year later, when I started posting on TikTok, I turned my Finsta into a real Instagram. And she had that blocked for like years and years and years, except for a couple months ago, she popped up in my people you may know, which means she unblocked me. And then I blocked her. I unfriended everybody from everything and was like, fuck it, I never want to think about these people again. This is now just like a good story and not my current life. Thank God. Eventually, obviously, my ex and I break up. Everybody is now like moved on and living their lives, right? I never blocked Grace on Facebook. We just like unfriended each other. I want to say like 4 months ago, I was on Facebook and my best friend Nicole posted something about like book recommendations and Grace commented on it. And I don't know what happened to me in that moment. I like saw red, like seeing her name on my best friend's Facebook post made me so mad. I just liked her comment and then I was like, what am I doing? And I blocked her. And then I felt better. But get this is the final thing. My assumption for a long time was that like obviously my ex and Grace were not friends anymore. Then earlier this year, I was locking down my Venmo privacy settings and I saw a transaction between them where my ex was paying Grace for something as if they had like gone out. I don't know if they ever repaired their friendship. Grace and Steve got married. They have their literal white picket fence, and I hope they enjoy the rest of their lives. If you made it to the very end of this whole series, you are a fucking real one, and I love you. So thank you for allowing me that opportunity. If you are Grace or Steve, I just have a couple of things to say to you. First one is, I want you to know that the stories you hated hearing and the complaining you hated hearing is what pays my rent now. Second, what was that you said about me? Good luck in life, having no connections. Third, and most importantly...
All right, y'all, we made it through it. If you stayed to the end of this video, comment some dolphins down below. I want to see who rocked with me all the way to the end. This one was a little different. You know, I tried to kind of step out a little bit the same way I did with the masculine presenting woman and her ex. And it kind of was like, I think I'm going to tap right on back into what we used to. You know what I'm saying? I do appreciate you all for watching, everyone that came and stayed and enjoyed this series. I thought I was going to have to make this 2 parts, but actually I made it 1. So if the edit gets a little crazy an hour or so into the video, that's what's happening. This is me now recording the second half of the video and realizing that it's really not even worth making 2 videos. So it's going to all be in 1. Y'all comment down below if you guys have ever had a crazy landlord or have any experience with dealing with crazy or toxic rental companies, whether you're in a house or an apartment. I want to hear what's going on out there, all right? Look, if you like videos from me and you want to see more is to come. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, because right now, King Day is out. Peace. The motherfucking building.